After this video, you're going to be able to create an AI agent in any language you want without needing a framework. So let's get started. Hi, I'm Julian Harris, and this is Making AI Agents. Let's start with a problem to solve. Always a good way to start, right? And I've got a great one, and it involves a software team. The software team has some questions about the code base. Different people in the software team have different questions. The architect, well, they want to know the big picture. They want to know, okay, what are the pieces of the puzzle? How do they fit together? What do they connect with in the outside world? That kind of thing. A new starter, though, they're more interested in, okay, how do I get things installed? How do I get my first ticket? Where's a good place to start? That kind of stuff. The tester, well, they're more interested in things like test coverage, the tools used for it, that kind of thing. So they have 3 different roles, and there are many more, by the way. Just 3, and those 3 have very different requirements. Now, what if I told you that we could create an agent that could answer every one of those questions with the same code, with the same agent? The architect question would get an architect answer. New starter response. Tester, a tester response. If you presented this to a software developer 5 or 10 years ago, they'd just say, science fiction. There's no way you can do that. It's incredibly difficult. And then I'll say, imagine if you didn't even write the code for it. You just gave them the plain English instructions. They're like, no, this is pure science fiction at this point. This is the magic that agents are offering. The ability to be able to work with this natural language and other real world sources and transform them. So you can have an architect request and an architect response, a new starter request and a new starter response. So let's look under the hood, because this video is about looking at creating a tech writer agent from scratch in Python with no frameworks. You're going to come away with a really good understanding of multiple things. You'll learn what the key parts are of an agent. And this is every agent. And 2, which parts are magic. And finally, as part of that magic, why agents are really special technology that just is very different to previous technology that we've worked with. So, let's look at the components of an agent, the pieces of the puzzle. The first is the prompts. So, if I was a cool kid, I'd call this the context, because that's the new word, by the way. The prompts or the context are the plain English instructions. We've already got one from the architect, from the tester, and from the new starter. But there are other pieces too, and we'll talk about that. Then we've got the language model. A language model is the brain. And it's very good at doing brainy things. It's very good at doing creative things. But it doesn't know how to connect to the rest of the world. And that is why we have tools. The tools part, well, that's the connection between the brain and things to do with the real world. So in our case, for a tech writer agent, we need to access the code. So we need tools to do that, and we'll explain what that looks like. And finally, we have memory. And memory is very simple. It's just keeping track of progress. So I promised code. I'll show you some code. Let's have a look. Now, I'm going to open up a special tool. I vibe coded, actually. I've called it Codec. And it's a way of presenting code. So let's go. Present. Boom. This is the code. Get ready. Here it is. All the code. Boom. There we go. See, isn't that interesting? Look at it all. It's so simple, right? No, I'm kidding. That's obviously a complete waste of time. I will dig into a little more detail. But before I do, actually, what I will show you is the output. So In the example, we talked about the agent producing results, where it's a text file. I vibe coded, let's make that clear, a web version of the tool using Replit. Thanks, guys. That's a really great tool. And in this, we have the architecture prompt that has been evolved over many iterations to try and improve that to get the kind of results that I wanted. So this in itself here, that has been substantially written by AI too. No surprise there, I guess. You've got it to generate something, and then I iterated to make sure the output is what I wanted. So here's a report. Okay, so this actually is a report from one of the most popular HTTP services called Axios for getting, not HTTP services, it's for getting content. And so I asked for an architectural overview, and you can see it produced diagrams and explains the data flow and state management. Did I have a specification for precisely those things? Well, some of it, yes. Yes, indeed. You can see here, we wanted a technology stack deployment architecture testing strategy. And it produced a lot of those things. But the notes and the details on it, that was all created by the agent. So that's the outcome. That's what we're looking forward to. So, okay, let's now look under the hood and see how it's actually built. Now I'm going to use my codec tool to dig into a few things now. And what we want to do then is we're going to first of all look at this prompt a bit more. Let's have a look here. So this is the one I think that I want to look at. Yeah, okay. So this is 2 parts. And let's go. The system prompt. All right, this is the bit that's separate from the user instruction. It's the pieces that I use to set the scene. And there's 2 parts to that. The base system prompt and the React prompt. Okay, technology warning. What's React? We'll go into it, but this is very, very important. Base system prompt, right? This is the standard stuff that you see in an agent. It is about the role that the agent plays, the job they have to do, how to do it, and what to produce. And so this is what it looks like. It's plain English sitting in Python. Nothing particularly interesting, honestly. I broke it into different sections, but it doesn't matter. It's all jammed together anyway, so it really doesn't matter. So that's fine. That's a base system prompt. The next one, right? This is the magic. We talked about tools being magic. This is also the other magic. So agents have two magics, right? 2 things that are magical. And this prompt is very interesting and very simple. This is precisely what you say. You give this instruction to the language model. You should follow the React pattern: thought, reason about what you need to do, action, observation, repeat until you have enough information to provide a final answer. Now, what is deeply profound about this is that last point. The crazy thing is that the power of agents, that one line, repeat until you have enough information to provide a final answer, that's the engine that drives the whole thing. This wasn't just made up, by the way, and guessed at one point. There's actually a whole research paper on how this came to be and other experimentations. And this React became profoundly valuable and is the basis of agents today. Most agents use React. Not all, but most. That's pretty amazing, right? That just a few words can make that difference? Yeah, I thought so too. Okay, so that is the heart of it. And by the way, I've got a special picture here for you, right? If you've had enough at this point and you want to walk away with the secret sauce, well, here it is, React and tools. This is GPT's attempt at me. I think I've lost a few pounds since that photo. All right, so there we go. You can walk away now. See you later. I can go too, bro. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just not yet. Let's continue. There's a bit more to cover. This is already a 10-minute long video, and I'm going to go through some really interesting stuff for you. So let's now look at the next stage, okay, which is the actual code in more detail. Not much more, and then we're nearly finished. Right now, we've covered the prompt and the pieces of that are magic, and that magic thing, which is the React part of the prompt. Now let's look at the code in a more serious way, a more helpful way than I showed before. We have three pieces. We've got the bit that creates the tools and connects OpenAI's request to do things to Python. We've then got the language model decision piece and then running the agent. Okay, so this part. Now, our tools are Python functions, right? But the language models, they don't call the tools. They just ask the code to call tools. Now, the great thing is with the text writer agent, we only have two tools. Find in files and read file. That's it. And so this important piece I'm going to show you is a key part of any agent. They need to know how to connect the OpenAI request to the Python functions. And here's the code. And I'm not going to walk through it. It's a lot of stuff that takes any Python function and turns it into a corresponding tool spec. So what does that look like? Well, I've got an example. Let me just show this here. What does a tool spec look like? Hard-coded tool spec. So let's look at what this is the example, right? So this is the two examples, very concrete, right? Now, the example I gave before was a general purpose one for doing any kinds of tools. But if you were to do it very specifically for those two tools, then you'd have something like this. So that is some JSON that explains, okay, you have a function that does these things. And the same for read file, right? You just describe what the tool is and what it can do. And the descriptions are really valuable. The language model uses those. So that's a concrete example. Right, so let's go back to this other one. We got to the tool spec, and then now we're going to jump to the decision. Now, the really interesting thing, right, is the React prompt we saw talks about tools and final answers. Yeah. And that actually is pretty much the whole of the flow. When the prompt is sent to the language model, it only comes up with two results. It either says, I need to run some more tools, meaning I need to look at some more files, or I need to have a look at a certain directory. It's really not difficult. It's literally, I want to call tools again. And it will have parameters like, okay, open this file. Now I found it, and I want to open this Python file or something. Okay? Or it might have an exciting final answer. But it's only two things. That's the interesting thing. It's a really very, very simple flow. And this is the function. So you just basically, it says, okay, if there are tool calls, then return the calls. Otherwise, return the final answer, which is the document that you saw at the beginning. The last stage, and we're really hitting the home straight here now, is running the agent. Now, it's a lot of code for giving the language model the prompt plus the history. Where did we get the history from? From memory. And we then check the result. Is it more tools to call, or do we have a final result? That's as we said. Or, so if there are more tool calls, then hey, just call those tools. And it could be more than one. If there is a final result, great. Let's save that result. And this is what it looks like. Again, I'm just letting it flow over you to give an indication of what's involved. There's not that much to it. That's the thing. But I wanted to cover those bases because those are the things that are the essence of an agent. All right, so where do we go from here? Well, we've covered the kinds of problems that an agent can solve. We looked at the very specific one, which is a text writer agent, and the magic it offers through these two things we talked about, which was the React and tools as the really magical parts. And then we looked at the components of an agent, the prompts, the language model, the tools, and memory. Why is this useful? Because now you know what these pieces are, and the source code available, so you can look at it. you can ask the question, do I need to use an agent framework or not? And the answer is, well, in some situations you don't need to. The code I provided, it's kind of pretty reusable. Like, you could pretty much just copy and paste that and use it wherever you like. And we're not just talking the tool mapping or anything. So much of it is reusable. So why use a framework when you can just use that? There are lots of uses, of course. And in fact, the reason why I bring this up is because I have other videos on this channel, and one of them is looking at this exact tech writer agent implemented in different frameworks, so you can really get a sense of the value that they provide. But as an extra bonus for those who stuck around for the, 15, 16 minutes already, I want to also share something with you, because the repo that I provided has the tech writer agent implemented in 9 other languages. Spoiler alert, I did vibe them. But they're pretty decent. I have an evaluation script to make sure they actually do their job. And so, there is a tech writer agent from scratch in all of these languages. PHP, Erlang, Zig, TypeScript, C, R, Go. There's even a bash script. I kid you not. If you want to run an agent with no dependencies and just runs, there is a tech writer completely written using bash. So they are in the repo, and you can try those and have a look at them. And with that, I want to wrap up and say, subscribe to make sure that you get other perspectives on tech writer agents, such as how the tech writer could be implemented using Crew AI or Agno or any of those other frameworks. So I've got videos on that too. So make sure you are subscribed and you liked and you added a lovely comment as well. Keep vibing, keep creating agents, enjoy, and make sure that you watch the other videos that are a perfect complement to this when they're ready, if they're not already available for you now.